The message arrived at 3 in the morning. Earth-time Ambassador Park Suman was sleeping in her apartment in Seoul when her communication device began to glow with an angry red light. She knew that color. It meant the Galactic Council wanted something, and they wanted it now. She read the message twice. Then she read it a third time, hoping the words would change. They did not. You are summoned to appear before the full assembly of the Galactic Council at Station Apex Prime. Attendance is not optional. Subject: Developmental Review of Species 4479, known as Humanity. Suman had been Earth's ambassador to the galaxy for 12 years. She had seen many things in that time. She had watched alien species argue over trade routes and mining rights. She had smiled through endless ceremonies and listened to thousands of speeches. But she had never seen those two words put together before. Developmental Review. She made calls. She woke up important people. Within 2 hours, she was on a ship heading to Apex Prime, the massive space station where the Galactic Council held its meetings. The journey took 6 days. Suman spent that time reading old files and historical records. What she found made her feel cold inside. Developmental Review had been used 17 times in the last 10,000 years. Every single time, it ended the same way. The species being reviewed lost everything. Their worlds, their freedom, their future. The Galactic Council was not a government. It was a club for the powerful. The oldest and strongest species made the rules, and everyone else followed them or suffered the consequences. Humanity had joined this club 50 years ago, right after first contact. They had kept their heads down. They traded fairly. They caused no trouble. They smiled and nodded and acted like good little newcomers to the galactic stage. And now, it seemed none of that mattered. Apex Prime was enormous. It hung in empty space between star systems, an artificial world made of metal and light. Ships from 100 different species came and went constantly. Suman's small vessel was barely noticed as it docked. She walked through long corridors filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated or crawled or moved in ways that hurt her eyes to watch. They all ignored her. Humans were not important enough to notice. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seats rising up like a stadium. Representatives from over 200 species sat in those seats, watching as Suman entered alone. At the center, on a raised platform, sat the 5 High Arbiters. These were the leaders of the oldest and most powerful species in the known galaxy. They had ruled for longer than human civilization had existed. The one in the middle was named Vorn. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes that held no warmth. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. Species 4479, Humanity. You have been summoned to answer for your developmental status. She had practiced remaining calm in situations like this. May I ask what concerns the Council has with Earth's development? Vorn smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You may not. You are here to listen, not to question. He pressed a button, and holographic images appeared in the air. They showed Earth's colonies. 12 worlds that humanity had settled over the past 5 decades. Farms, cities, families. The Council has determined that humanity has expanded beyond its appropriate boundaries, Vorn announced. Your species is young. You lack the wisdom to manage so many worlds. Therefore, we offer you protection. Suman knew what that word meant. Protection. It was the word the Council used when they wanted to take something. What does this protection require from us? She asked. Another arbiter, a creature with too many arms, leaned forward. 40% of your colony worlds will be transferred to Council administration. You will provide annual tribute in rare minerals and resources. And you will allow Council military forces to establish bases within your home system. The chamber was silent. 200 species watched Suman, waiting to see how the human would react. Most of them had seen this before. They knew how it ended. Suman kept her face perfectly still. Inside, her heart was pounding. And if we decline this generous offer? Vorn laughed. The sound was cold and sharp. You do not decline. No species has ever declined. You will accept, or you will face the consequences. The Council commands a fleet of 3,000 warships. Your entire species commands less than 200. The mathematics are simple. He raised one long finger. You have 30 standard days to deliver your acceptance. Use that time wisely, Ambassador. Convince your leaders that cooperation is the only path forward. Suman wanted to argue. She wanted to shout that this was wrong, that humanity had done nothing to deserve this treatment. But she was a diplomat. She knew that words spoken in anger were words wasted. I will deliver your message to Earth, she said simply. We will give you our answer in 30 days. She turned and walked out of the chamber. She did not look back. The journey home felt longer than the journey out. Suman spent it writing reports and preparing for what came next. She knew the leaders of Earth would not take this news well. She was right. The United Nations. Emergency assembly was called within hours of her return. Every nation on Earth sent representatives. They gathered in a massive underground facility built specifically for moments like this. Suman told them everything. She showed them the files about the 17 species that had been absorbed before. She explained what the Council really meant by protection. The room erupted into chaos. Some leaders demanded immediate surrender. The Council was too powerful, they argued. Fighting would only lead to destruction. Better to accept bad terms than to die. Others called for war. They spoke of human pride and dignity. They said that some things were worth fighting for. Even against impossible odds, General Yoon Minho stood and silenced the room with his presence alone. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. We have 30 days, he said. Before we decide anything, we need to understand all of our options. All of them. He looked across the room to where Admiral Kung Taiwu sat quietly in the corner. The Admiral had not spoken a single word since the meeting began. He simply sat there, reading something on a small tablet, his face completely blank. Admiral Minho said, "You have been very quiet. Do you have nothing to say?" Taiwu looked up slowly. He studied the faces around him, all those frightened and angry leaders. Then he smiled slightly. "I have much to say," he replied, "but not here, not yet. First, I need to make some calls." He stood and walked out of the room, leaving everyone confused and worried. Only Ambassador Suman noticed the look in his eyes. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was anticipation. Something was happening that the Galactic Council had not planned for. Something that would change everything. Suman just hoped it would be enough. 50 years ago, when the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky, humanity made a decision that would shape its future. The ship was from the Galactic Council. It carried diplomats who smiled too much and spoke words that sounded friendly but felt wrong. They offered humanity membership in their great civilization. They promised trade, technology, and protection. Earth's leaders were not fools. They smiled back and accepted the offer. But behind closed doors, they asked questions. They studied the diplomats. They learned everything they could about this new galaxy they had entered. What they found terrified them. The Galactic Council was not a family of equals. It was a hierarchy built on power and fear. The oldest species sat at the top, taking what they wanted from those below. Younger species were tolerated as long as they remained useful and weak. The moment they became inconvenient, they were absorbed. Their worlds were taken. Their people became servants. 17 civilizations had suffered this fate. Some had tried to resist. They were crushed. Some had tried to run. They were hunted. Some had tried to hide. They were found. There was no escape from the Council's power, or so everyone believed. Earth's leaders made a choice. They called it the Grey Doctrine. The idea was simple. Appear weak. Stay quiet. Never show your true strength. Build in secret and wait for the right moment. For 50 years, humanity pretended to be exactly what the Council expected. Primitive newcomers, struggling with basic technology. Harmless traders who caused no trouble. A minor species not worth watching closely. Every ship humanity built for public use was slow and outdated. Every weapon they displayed was decades behind what the Council already had. Every scientific announcement was carefully chosen to seem impressive to humans, but boring to aliens. And behind this mask of weakness, the real work continued. Admiral Kung Taiwu had been part of this secret for 20 years. He had risen through the ranks not because he was loud or aggressive, but because he understood patience. He knew that the greatest victories came not from fighting harder, but from fighting smarter. Now, in a secure room deep beneath the mountains of Korea, he gathered the people who knew the truth. General Yoon Min-ho was there. So was Ambassador Park Soo-min. But the most important person in the room was a woman named Dr. Cha Yuna. Yuna was small and quiet, with glasses that made her look like a librarian. But she was the most dangerous person on Earth. She led a program called Project Midnight Sun. And what she had built in the past 50 years would change the galaxy. Show them, Taiwu said. Yuna touched a control panel. The walls of the room transformed into screens showing ships, weapons, and technology that made even Minho gasp. We call this the real fleet, Yuna explained. 342 vessels. The Council thinks we have less than 200 slow transport ships. They are wrong. She pointed to a sleek warship on the screen. Our fastest public ships can travel at factor for faster than light. This ship travels at factor 4. We can cross the entire galaxy in days, while the Council needs months. Soo-min stared at the images. How? How did we hide this? We built everything in deep space, Taiwu answered. Far from trade routes, far from Council sensors. Every scientist, every engineer, every worker involved has lived in secret facilities for decades. Their families think they died in accidents. The Council thinks those accidents were real. Minho shook his head slowly. 47 times faster? It means we can appear anywhere in Council space without warning, Yuna confirmed. It means we can be somewhere and gone before their sensors even register we existed. It means the rules they think they understand no longer apply. She showed them more. Weapons that could crack planets. Shields that could survive a sun's heat. Communication systems that worked instantly across any distance, something the Council believed was impossible. We studied everything they gave us, Yuna said. We studied what they threw away. We found holes in their science that they never noticed because they stopped looking. They became comfortable. They stopped improving. We did not. Soo-min sat down heavily. Her mind was racing. 50 years. You kept this secret for 50 years, we had to Taiwu said. The Grey Doctrine required it. If we showed strength too early, they would have crushed us before we were ready. We needed time to build, to prepare, to become strong enough that they could never crush us. And now? Taiwu's eyes were hard. Now we are ready. Minho stood up and paced the room. This is incredible. But 300 ships against 3,000? Even with superior technology, we do not need to fight them, Taiwu interrupted. We need to scare them. We need to show them that attacking us would cost more than they are willing to pay. The Council rules through fear. We must give them something to fear. Soo-min understood now. You want to break their confidence. Make them doubt everything they think they know about us. Exactly. The Council has never faced a species they could not predict. They have never met an enemy they could not understand. We will be that enemy. We will be the unknown. And the unknown is always more frightening than any army. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Soo-min spoke again. I met someone at Apex Prime, a delegate named Talus, from the Veshian Empire. She seemed different from the others. Sympathetic, maybe? Taiwu nodded. We know about Talus. Her species was absorbed 3,000 years ago. They have been waiting for someone to stand up to the Council ever since. There are others like her. Many others. Species that serve the Council, but hate them in secret. Potential allies, Minho said. Potential witnesses, Taiwu corrected. When we make our move, everyone needs to see it. Everyone needs to understand that the Council is not invincible. That will matter more than any alliance. He turned to Soo-min. Ambassador, I need you to return to Apex Prime. Request meetings, file complaints, do whatever diplomats do to waste time. We need every day you can give us. And what will you be doing? Taiwu smiled that small, dangerous smile again. I will be positioning our pieces. When the 30 days end, the Council expects to receive our surrender. Instead, they will receive a message they will never forget. Suman stood. She felt different now. The fear that had gripped her since reading that first message was gone. In its place was something new. Hope. I'll buy you as much time as I can, she said. Don't waste it. She left to prepare for her journey back to Apex Prime. Behind her, Admiral Taiwu turned to face the screens, showing humanity's hidden strength. The weight of history pressed down on him. 17 species had tried to resist the Council and failed. Humanity would be the 18th to try, but they would be the first to succeed. He was certain of it. Day 29 arrived like a storm. Ambassador Park. Suman had spent the past month being the most annoying diplomat in galactic history. She filed complaints. She requested meetings. She demanded reviews of ancient treaties. She asked for translations of documents into 17 different human languages. She questioned the legality of every procedure and challenged the authority of every official. The Council was frustrated. High Arbiter Vorn had expected humanity to spend these 30 days begging for mercy. Instead, they had buried him in paperwork. But now the time for paperwork was over. The Council chamber was packed. Word had spread that today was the day humanity would surrender. Representatives from every species wanted to watch. They filled the seats and crowded the doorways and watched from screens across the galaxy. Everyone loves watching the weak fall. It makes them feel strong. Suman walked into the chamber alone. She carried a single sheet of paper in her hand. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. High Arbiter Vorn leaned forward on his platform. His gray face showed satisfaction. Finally, he thought. Finally, these annoying humans would learn their place. Ambassador Park, he announced. You have come to deliver humanity's response to the Council's generous offer of protection. Please proceed. Suman stopped in the center of the chamber. She looked up at the thousands of faces watching her. She saw fear in some, amusement in others, boredom in many. None of them expected what was about to happen. She unfolded the paper and read aloud. The United Nations of Earth, speaking for all of humanity, respectfully declines all demands made by the Galactic Council. We suggest the Council reconsider its position. Further attempts at extortion will not be tolerated. The chamber exploded into noise. Aliens shouted and gasped and laughed. Some could not believe what they had heard. Others found it hilarious. A young species refusing the Council. It was suicide. Vorn raised his hand for silence. When he spoke, his voice was ice. You refuse? Do you understand what you are saying, Ambassador? Do you understand what happens to species that refuse the Council? We understand perfectly, Suman replied. We have studied the 17 species you destroyed before us. We learned from their mistakes. Then you have learned nothing. Vorn turned to a figure standing in the shadows. Commander Reth, mobilize the enforcement fleet. It seems humanity needs a lesson in obedience. Commander Reth was massive, built like a machine of war. He had commanded the Council's fleet for centuries. He had crushed rebellions and burned worlds. This would be just another day's work. He pressed a button on his communication device to contact his ships. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Still nothing. Then his device began to flash with incoming emergency signals. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. High Arbiter, Reth said slowly. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Reth looked up, and for the first time in anyone's memory, there was confusion in his eyes. Human ships have appeared everywhere. 17 locations across Council space. They appeared simultaneously, without warning. Our sensors detected nothing until they were already there. The chamber fell silent again. This time, there was no laughter. Vorn's face changed color. That is impossible. Humans have slow transport ships. They cannot move fleets across the galaxy in secret. These are not transport ships, Reth said. These are warships. Designs we have never seen before, and they are moving faster than anything in our records. A massive holographic display activated in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of Council space, with 17 red dots marking human fleet positions. The dots were moving, dancing around Council defenses like they were standing still. One of the dots was directly outside Apex Prime. Suman smiled. "I believe my colleagues have a message for you." A new voice filled the chamber. It came from Captain Baek Ji-hoon, commander of the flagship Indomitable. His image appeared on every screen. "Council members," Ji-hoon said calmly, "we are not here to fight. We are here to demonstrate. Please watch carefully." On the display, the human ships began to move. They jumped in and out of faster-than-light travel like it was nothing. They appeared in one place, disappeared, and appeared in another location light years away in the same second. They flew in perfect formation across impossible distances. The Council's best ships needed hours to calculate a single jump. These humans were jumping every few seconds, navigating the galaxy like it was a swimming pool. Then all 17 fleets performed the same maneuver at the exact same moment. They flew toward Council defense stations, passed within meters of their hulls, and vanished before a single weapon could lock onto them. When the ships reappeared, they were back in their original positions. The entire demonstration had taken less than 3 minutes. "We have shown you what we can do," Ji-hoon announced. "We have chosen not to use these capabilities for violence. But make no mistake, if the Council attacks Earth or any human colony, we will respond, and you will not see us coming." The display went dark. The chamber was absolutely silent. 200 species sat frozen, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Everything they knew about power and strength and safety had just been turned upside down. High Arbiter Vorn gripped the arms of his seat so hard that the metal bent under his fingers. His face was a storm of emotions: shock, anger, fear, and something he had not felt in a very long time: doubt. "This changes nothing," he said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "The Council still commands 3,000 warships. You have shown us tricks, nothing more." Suman stepped forward. "Those tricks, as you call them, allow us to be anywhere in your space within minutes. Your 3,000 ships cannot defend 3,000 locations at once. You cannot protect your worlds, your stations, your trade routes. You cannot even protect this room." She let that sink in.
Ow!
"We do not want war," she continued. "We never wanted war. We only wanted to be left alone. So here's our counteroffer. Leave humanity in peace. Stop your extortion. Treat us as equals. And we will be happy to cooperate with the Council in matters of mutual benefit." Vorn said nothing. He could not think of anything to say. Sumin turned and walked toward the exit. As she passed Delegate Talus, she saw something in the alien woman's eyes. It was hope. Other delegates were whispering to each other. Species that had been silent for centuries were suddenly finding their voices. If humans could stand up to the Council, maybe they could too. Suman kept walking. Behind her, the galaxy was changing. The old rules were breaking. The Council's grip on power was slipping, and humanity was just getting started. The Council did not sleep that night. High Arbiter Vorn called emergency meetings with his intelligence chiefs. He demanded answers. How had humanity developed this technology? How had they hidden it? Who had failed to notice? Someone had to be punished for this disaster, but his chiefs had no answers. They had watched Earth for 50 years. They had spies in human governments. They had agents monitoring human research facilities. Everything they saw confirmed that humanity was exactly what they appeared to be: a young, weak species with nothing special about them. "We monitored their communications," one chief said, his voice trembling. "We inspected their ships. We studied their weapons. Everything matched what they showed us publicly." "Then you were fooled," Vorn spat.
"No, High Arbiter."
"We were shown exactly what they wanted us to see." The words hung in the air like poison. Across Council space, panic spread. Species that had felt safe for millennia suddenly felt exposed. The human fleets had appeared at 17 strategic locations. not random points in empty space. Strategic locations, places that mattered. Military bases, trade hubs, communication centers. The humans had known exactly where to appear for maximum effect. That meant they knew things about council space that they should not know. They had intelligence that should have been impossible to gather. How long had they been watching? How much did they really know? On Apex Prime, Delegate Talus received a message requesting a private meeting. It came from Ambassador Park Suman. They met in a small garden near the edge of the station, where plants from 100 worlds grew in careful arrangements. Talus found Suman sitting on a bench, looking at the stars through a massive window. "Your people have done something remarkable," Talus said as she sat down. "In 3,000 years of service to the Council, I have never seen the Arbiters so afraid." "We did not want them to be afraid," Suman replied. "We wanted them to respect us. Fear will do for now." Talus studied the human woman. "May I ask how?" "My people were absorbed 3,000 years ago. We had scientists and engineers and warriors. We thought we were prepared. We were wrong. How did humanity succeed where we failed?" Suman was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "When your people were absorbed, how much warning did you have?" "None. The Council arrived with demands one day. We had a month to respond." "There was no time to prepare." "Exactly. That is how the Council operates. They give you no time to think, no time to build, no time to plan. They overwhelm you with power before you can develop your own. It is an effective strategy." Suman turned to face Talus. "We knew about that strategy before first contact. We found records of absorbed species in old transmissions floating through space. We studied those records. We learned from the mistakes of others, and we decided that we would never let the Council catch us unprepared. You knew they would come for you eventually. We knew it was possible. So we prepared for that possibility from the very first day. Everything the Council saw was a performance. Our slow ships, our weak weapons, our struggling scientists. All fake. The real work happened in places the Council never looked." Talus shook her head slowly. 50 years of deception. The patience required. "Patience is a human strength," Suman said. "We are good at waiting. We are good at suffering in silence while we build toward something better. It is not pleasant, but it works." The next day, Admiral Kung Tai Wu appeared before the Council via holographic transmission. His image stood in the center of the chamber, calm and controlled, while the Arbiters watched with barely hidden anger. "I am here to explain," Tai Wu said. "Not to threaten. Not to boast. Simply to explain." Vorn glared at him. "Explain then. Explain how you deceive the greatest civilization in the galaxy." "Where I come from, we have a saying. The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. It means that showing strength invites attack. So we learned not to show strength. We learned to look weak while becoming strong." He began to walk around the chamber, his holographic form passing through seats and delegates. "You've watched us for 50 years. Your spies reported everything they saw. But they only saw what we allowed them to see. Your technology scanned our ships, but we gave you ships designed to be scanned. Your agents infiltrated our governments, but we fed them information we wanted you to have." General Yoon Minho's image appeared beside Tai Wu. "We identified your observation methods in the first year of contact. We built our entire public infrastructure to satisfy those observations while hiding our real capabilities. You were not watching us. You were watching a show." The Arbiters shifted uncomfortably. The idea that they had been manipulated so completely was difficult to accept. Vorn demanded. "How did you develop technology that surpasses our own? You are children. We have advanced for millions of years." Dr. Cha Yuna's image appeared next. "That is exactly why," she said. "You stopped advancing. You reached a level of power that seemed unbeatable, and you became comfortable. You stopped asking questions. You stopped trying to improve. Why would you? No one could challenge you." She smiled gently. "Humans never had that luxury. We had to keep improving just to survive. We had to question everything, test everything, push every boundary. We found gaps in your science that you never noticed because you stopped looking. You studied our technology and improved it, Vorn said slowly. We studied everything, Una confirmed. Your technology, your history, your psychology. We learned how you think, how you make decisions, what you fear. Knowledge is power, High Arbiter. You taught us that lesson. We simply learned it better than you expected. The chamber was heavy with silence. Finally, Taiwu spoke again. We have no interest in conquest. We do not want your worlds or your resources. We only want what every species wants, the freedom to live in peace. Give us that freedom, and you will find us to be good neighbors. Deny us that freedom. He let the sentence hang unfinished. The implication was clear. Vorn looked at the other arbiters. For the first time in recorded history, they looked uncertain. The power they had held for so long suddenly felt fragile. We will need time to consider your request, Vorn said finally. Take all the time you need, Taiwu replied. We are patient. We have always been patient, but do not mistake patience for weakness. Not again. His image faded. The chamber remained silent for a long time after. Everything the council believed about humanity, about power, about control, had been wrong. And now they had to face a galaxy where the old rules no longer applied. Change was coming. They could feel it in the air, and they were afraid. The weeks that followed were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hi. Arbiter Vorn tried to save face. He announced that the developmental review had been a test of humanity's resolve, that humans had passed with impressive results. Few believed him. The recordings of that council meeting had already spread to every corner of space. Everyone had seen the fear on his face. The official story did not matter. What mattered was the truth, and the truth was simple. Humanity had refused the council and survived. More than survived. They had made the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Back down. For species that had lived under the council's shadow for thousands of years. This was revolutionary. Delegate Talus was the first to act. She stood before the full council and demanded that her people, the Vessians, be reclassified from absorbed status to protected alliance status. It was a formal change that meant little in practical terms. But symbolically, it meant everything. If humans can stand as equals, Talus declared, then so can we. Vorn denied her request, but others followed. Within a month, 47 species had filed similar demands. The council could deny one request easily. Denying 47 was harder. Denying the 112 that came the following month was nearly impossible. The galaxy was waking up. On Earth. Ambassador Park Suman became a hero. Her face appeared on screens around the world. Children dressed up as her for festivals. Songs were written about the diplomat who stared down the masters of the galaxy, did not blink. Suman did not enjoy the attention. She spent most of her time in meetings, working on the new treaties that would define humanity's relationship with the Council. It was boring, difficult work, but it was important. Admiral Kung Taiwu returned to his quiet life in the shadows. He declined all interviews and refused all honors. When asked why, he simply said that the job was not finished. We showed them the nail, he told General Yoon Minho one evening. They think they have seen our full strength. They are wrong. You want to keep the Grey Doctrine active? I want to keep options open. The Council is weakened, but not broken. They will adapt. They will look for weaknesses. We must stay ahead of them. Minho nodded slowly. So we keep building in secret. Keep building. We keep watching. We keep learning. That is how we survived this long. That is how we will survive whatever comes next. The official negotiations took 3 months. When they were finished, Earth had achieved something unprecedented. Humanity was reclassified from minor developing. Species 2, major independent, power. This was a designation that only 12 civilizations had ever held in galactic history. It meant that Earth could not be touched without starting a war that the Council could not afford. More importantly, the practice of developmental review was suspended indefinitely. The Council claimed this was for administrative reasons. Everyone knew the real reason. They were afraid that other species would follow humanity's example. Ambassador. Suman signed the final treaty in a small ceremony on Apex Prime. When she finished writing her name, she looked up at High Arbiter Vorn. "This is a new beginning," she said. "For all of us." Vorn said nothing. His face was stone. But Suman could see the hatred burning behind his ancient eyes. This was not over. Not for him. Not for the Council. They had been humiliated. Powerful beings do not forget humiliation easily. But that was a problem for another day. After the ceremony, Suman met Delegate Talus one last time. They walked together through the corridors of Apex Prime, two women from very different worlds who had found common ground. "What happens now?" Talus asked. "Now we build something new," Suman replied. The Council ruled through fear for too long. Fear of their power, fear of their fleets, fear of what they could do to anyone who challenged them. We broke that fear. Now others will find their courage. You think the galaxy will change? I think the galaxy is already changing. We just gave it permission. Talus was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been burning in her mind for weeks. "Will you help us? The species that want to break free from the Council's control? Will humanity stand with us?" Suman stopped walking. She turned to face Talus directly. "I cannot promise military support. We will not start wars on behalf of others. But I can promise this: you will not stand alone. Earth will be a voice for those who cannot speak. We will shine a light on injustice. We will offer sanctuary to those who need it. And if the Council tries to crush another species the way they tried to crush us, ... She let the words hang in the air. Talus understood. "You will remind them that you are watching." We are always watching. We learned that from them. On Earth, in a small observation room overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Taiwu and Dr. Che Yuna stood together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. "The Council will try again," Yuna said. "Not soon. But eventually, they cannot allow our example to stand." "I know. What do we do?" Taiwu watched the waves roll against the shore. He thought about the past 50 years, the sacrifices, the secrets, the weight of responsibility that he had carried for so long. "We do what we have always done," he said. "We prepare. We improve. We stay one step ahead. The Gray Doctrine worked because we never stopped working. We never got comfortable. We never assumed we were safe. The day we stop improving is the day we become vulnerable." Una nodded. "So the work continues. The work always continues." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked the question that had been on her mind. "Do you think we will ever reveal everything? All the things we have not shown them yet?" Taiwu smiled slightly. It was the same small, dangerous smile that Ambassador Suman had noticed in that first meeting so many weeks ago. "Showed them the nail," he said. "We let them think they understand us now. We let them think they know what we can do. But the nail is nothing special. The nail just sits there, waiting." He turned to face Yuna. His eyes held a quiet fire that had burned for 5 decades and would burn for many more. "What matters is the hammer." Far away. On Apex Prime, High Arbiter Vorn sat alone in his chamber. He stared at reports and projections and strategic analyses. He was looking for a weakness, a flaw, anything that could be used against humanity. He found nothing, but he kept looking, because he knew, with absolute certainty, that this was not over. The humans had won this battle. They had changed the galaxy. They had given hope to species that had forgotten what hope felt like. But empires do not fall easily, and the Council had ruled for a very, very long time. The new dawn was beginning. What came next would determine whether it would last, and somewhere in the darkness of space, human ships moved silently between the stars, watching, waiting, and preparing for whatever the future would bring. They had always been patient. They could afford to wait a little longer.